So hello everyone, welcome back to the session. So in the previous session we have seen about some of the we can say like a component view. So what is a component level design? So what is a traditional view in that, and what is a object oriented view in that? So what is a component? We have seen those topics in the previous session. So let's go for the next topic, that is the design based components. Designing class based components. So what is the class based components? So how we have to design those? So basic principles. What is the basic design principles in that is? So we have the 4 basic principles. So which are applicable along with the component level design. Okay. So what are those? The first one is the open closed principle. We can shortly called as a OCP. Open closed principle. So what is this open closed principle? So a module. So what is a module? We said that a module building block we called as a component. So a module, that means a component, should be open for extension or closed for the modification. So whatever the component, that means whether it is a for loop or whether it is a component, means whatever the graphical image you have placed, whatever the element you have placed. Okay, so that element can interact for the any open place. That means it can applicable for any open place like that. For example, for doing the for loop. In for loop, if you want to use the I, so if you say I is a one module, so what you will write in for loop, you will write the some incrementation of the I. That means there is some opening for the component, and next we can close the component also. And next, second point is the listen substitution principle. So there is a shortcut name is LCP. So the first one is the OCP and next one is the LCP. So LCP means the Liskov substitution principle. So Liskov is one of the contributor of the software engineering. So he has given the some principle. So what is that principle is? Subclasses should be substitutable for their have classes. So for example, if you have the object oriented concept. So if you know about the object oriented concept, so in this object oriented concept, we have the inheritance concept. Inheritance. So in inheritance, you have the base class, and next you have the derived class. So base class, derived class. So whatever the things you are declared in the base class, that means it is a variables or operations. Whatever the things you have declared in variable class, so that can be usable in the derived class also. So that is the concept of the inheritance. Okay. So the same thing, the Liskov also given the same principle. So in LSP also. So what you have to use, so what are the subclasses you are using? So subclasses means the derived classes, that means which are deriving from the base class. Those classes can be used, so substantiable for their base classes. Okay, so that is the principle. That means he is explaining about the concept of the inheritance. And next point is, let's go for the next point. So dependency inversion principle. So DIP. So in DIP, what is the DIP is? Depend on abstraction. So what is meant by abstraction? We said that abstraction is nothing but hiding the details. It is one of the concept of the object oriented programming. Okay, the same thing will happen in the software engineering. So what in dependency inversion principle, you have to depend on abstraction, don't depend upon the conception. That means whatever the data you are whatever the data you are writing in the program, that program should be abstractable. That means you need not to give the whole program to the users. You have to give only the executed file to the users. And next, fourth point is the interface segregation principle. So ISP, integration segregation principle. So many of the client, okay, many client specific interfaces. That means interfaces are nothing but some of the program, what we use. So like elements, graphical icons, whatever the interfaces we use. So okay, so mouse is a one-off interface, keyboard is a one-off interface, joystick is a one-off interface, like that. So whatever the interfaces you are using, okay, in the client phases are better than those of general purpose interfaces. Like, so we can give the interface through voice, we can give the interfaces through keyboard, Okay, whatever the things, interfaces you are giving in order to interact with the system, in order to interact with the software, it should be a very simple one. And next, fifth point is the release reuser equivalence principle. So REP, release equivalence principle, REP we can say. So this granule of reuse is a granule of release. So whatever the software you are developing, so that software has to be get reuse. If you reuse only, then we can able to save the time and money. Okay, so that is the granule of reuse is a granule to release. And next one, last is the common closure principle. So CCP, this is shortcut is a closure principle, CCP. So this closure principle is that whatever the changes you are doing in the system, whatever the changes you are doing in the software, so that should be together, belong together. So whatever the changes you are applying, so whatever the changes or whatever the we can say replacing some things, so that should be done in a together manner. And next thing is, and last point is the common reusable principle, CRP. So previous one is a CCP, this is a CRP. So what is this CRP? So the closure that are used together should not be grouped together. So classes. So whatever the classes you are using, that should not be reused. That should not be together. Okay, and also you should not group whatever the classes you are using. So the classes should not be grouped, because here you are using the abstraction. So if you are using the grouping, so if you use the grouping, so if you want to give the sum of the classes to the user, so at that time you will get faces some problems. That's why. So we are not group the classes, and we are not should not group it together. Okay. And next, component level design guidelines. So what are the component level design guidelines? So first, Ambler. So we have listened the Ambler. Ambler give the some of the suggestions before in the design concepts. So Ambler suggests some of the following concepts. What are those? The first one is the components. So what is a component? Component is a module, small module. So that means some unit of the work. Okay. Naming convenience should be established for the components that are specified as part of the architectural model. So in architectural model, whatever the components you are used, it should be named one. That means we have to give some names to the components. For example, if you are using some graphical icons, so those graphical icons, we have to place some name in order to for the convenience purpose. And next one is the interfaces. So what is meant by interface? So interface provide important information about the communication and collaboration. So what is meant by interface? Interface is nothing but it is giving the sum of the interaction between the user and the system. So what is giving the interaction between the user and system? So whether it is a keyboard, or whether it is a mouse, or whether it is some joystick. So if it is a touch, so we can give the touch is also one interface. So whatever the interfaces we are using, so they plays an important role. So they have to give us some information about the what communication it is going, what collaboration is going. And next one is a cohesion. So what is a cohesion? Cohesion is a single mindedness. So cohesion means single mindedness of a component. That means, so Lethbridge and Langre. So these are the two contributors, define a number of different types of the cohesion. Okay, so cohesion means it is a single mindedness of a component. That means the component that is using in the one way. So what are different types of they have these two contributors, Lethbridge and Langre, have given the two different types of the cohesions. Oh, what are the different types of the cohesions? Number first, so we will see later what are the different types of cohesion. So first one is next one is a functional. So what is a functional? Okay, so exhibit primarily by operations. So next one is a functional. So what is a functional? So exhibited primarily by operations. So what is the function is nothing but what are the operations we are doing, that is a function. Okay, so for example, if you write the logic for the addition of the two numbers, that is a one operation. So that operation, what is going on, that is called as a function. Okay, and next one is layer. So what is a layer? So exhibited by the packages. So layer is nothing but a packages. So if you have seen packages, packages is one of the concept of the object-oriented programming. If you come to the Java. So in Java you have some packages. Or else, if you want to know about the packages, so in C++, you people will use a hash include iostream.h, some header files you will give. So that header file is some packages. Okay. What is this packages? So it packages contains by the components and classes, and this type of question occurs when a higher layer accesses the services of a lower layer, but lower layer does not access the higher layers. That means whatever the things, so for example in inheritance, I have said the inheritance. In inheritance we have the two types of the classes. One is the base class and second one is the derived class. So what are the things in the base class? We can take those base classes in the derived class. But whatever in the derived class will not be accessed to the base class. Similarly, if you say the base class is a higher one and the derived class is a lower one, then the lower class can take anything from the higher classes. So, but whatever in the lower classes, whatever the variables or functions, it had not be accessible to the higher layer. So that is a thing of the layer. And next one is the communication. So all operations that access the same data are defined within the one class. So whatever the functions you are writing, so in a class, what you will write in a class? In a class, you people write some variables, some functions, some operations or functions or operations or methods, whatever it is. Okay, you will write all those things. What it is defining. So whatever the data you are presenting in the class, that data will be utilized by the operations that are defining in the same class. So that is a communication. So communication means whatever the variables it has taken, it is getting the operated in the in operation. So after getting the operation, the values are changing into the variables. That means there is a communication between these two things, variables and the functions. So that is a communication. And next, coming to the coupling. Okay, in the design based components level, so this is a component. Coupling is a subtopic in that. So what is a coupling? So coupling is a qualitative measure of the degree in which the classes are connected to one another. So classes. So how we represent the class? So class diagram is represented in a rectangular box having the three parts. So first one is the class name, second one is the attributes, and third one is the operations. So like that we will have so many of the classes. How these classes are connect with each other. How these classes are collaborate with each other. So that is called as a coupling. So whether the association relationship is existing between them or there is a one-to-many relationship, which relationship is applicable between these classes, that is defined by the coupling. So let us see in detail. So all as classes, we can say the class as a one component. If you think the class is a one component, okay. So all classes, whatever the classes it are, and components become interdependent coupling interfaces. So how the classes are depending with each other. So if there is an association, so there is some dependency. If there is a we can say aggregation relationship, there is some independency between these two classes. How independently or how dependently are interlinked with these classes, that is called as a coupling. So an important objective in component level design is to keep coupling as low as possible. So in order to get this component level design, we have to maintain this coupling in a low manner. That means the classes should not be connected with each other. The classes should not be dependent with each other. It should be independent with each other, because we are using the concept of abstraction. So if you use the concept of abstraction, what it do? The classes, the data, what you are giving, that is hiding to the user. Okay. So class coupling can manifest itself in a variety of ways by the same two contributors, Ledwidge and Langerhans. So define the following coupling categories. So what are the different categories, what they define and what are those? So the first one is a content coupling. So or else we can see, we can call as a root call coupling. Okay, so that is a one type of coupling. So how the content can be coupled. Okay, so next one is a type use coupling. So what type of, so we have the different types, like data types. What types means the different data types. Int, integer, float, decimal, big, I mean big int or a small int, like the different data types we have. Okay, large int and small int. So what types of hints? So which type of data types can be coupled? Which type of data types cannot be coupled? So that is a type of coupling. And next one is inclusion or import coupling. So if you want to import some data from one class to another class, like base class to derived class, that is a intent or import coupling. Next one is the external coupling. From external classes, we have to take the sum of the variables, that is a external coupling. And next one is a common coupling. Common means whatever the, if you use the inheritance concept, then in that we will use the whatever the classes variables we are declared in the base class, in derived base class, that is taken to the derived class, that is the common coupling. Next one is the control coupling. So how to control the data? So after coupling between the classes, how we have to control? So that is the control coupling. Next one is the stamp coupling. So this is one of the coupling that will be used in the classes. And next one is a data coupling. So data coupling and the control coupling will be the same. Okay. So software must communicate internally and externally. So what is the software? Software is nothing but a set of program instructions. What it will do? So whatever the programs you are going to implement, where you are going to implement at that place, it has to change interchange of information or communication between the two things or two systems or two people. Okay, that is the software. So it must communicate internally or externally. So therefore coupling is a fact of life. So in order to utilize the software more effectively, so this coupling plays an important role in this. So however, we have to the designer, whoever the developer should work in reducing the coupling. So if you reduce the coupling, then the work will be the more effective. Okay, so because coupling means dependent on each other. So if you reduce the dependence, then if you give the components in an independent way, then the way of working of the software is also very good. So we have to reduce the coupling whenever we are developing the software product. Next one is a conducting component level design. So what is a component level design? So up to now we have seen the class based components. In class based components we have got the cohesion, what is the cohesion, and we have seen the what is the coupling. Now we are going for the conducting component level design. So how we have to design the component level. So how we have to conduct that. So the following steps present a typical task set to component level design. So when it is applied for an object oriented design system. So if you are going for the object oriented design system, so we have to follow some of the guidelines. It has given us some typical task set for the setting of the component level design in the object oriented. So what is that? The first one is identify all design classes that correspond to the problem domain. So you have to identify all the design classes, so which are getting the some problem domain. So what is the domain you are working with? So first we have to know that what is the domain. So in that domain, what type of classes you are going to include. So those classes where you are getting the problem. So we have to identify that. And next, second point, identify all design classes that corresponding to the infrastructure domain. So first one is the problem domain and second one is the infrastructure domain. So if you are using some hardware components along with the software, so at what in that domain, in what way infrastructure you are using, so at what way you are getting the problem. So whatever the design classes you have did, so in infrastructure domain, what the problem you are getting, you have to note down. And next, third point is elaborate all design classes that are not acquired as reusable components. So whatever the components, mostly we have to go for the reusable components. We have to implement the only less components and we have to reusable. Okay, so we have to elaborate where we not getting the some reusable components. So we have to identify that. So next, in step 3 only we have the two parts, 3A and 3B and 3C. So in step, what is the step 3? It is elaborate the what are the where we are not getting the some reusable components. So in 3A, so specify message details when classes or components are collaborate. So that means if two or three classes are collaborating means if they are associated with each other. So what type of message it is going on? That means we use some arrows. So for example, this is a one class and this is a one class. So in order to interact with this class, we will give the some arrow mark and we will give the one to many or many to one. Some we can say this as a message. Okay, so what type of messages? So we have to give the details about the message. Okay, next step. So elaborate the attributes and define the data types. So what are the data types you are using and what are the data structures you are using in the classes? We have to know that. And next, see, describe processing flow within each operation in detail. So what type of data flow is going on? So what type of operation you are getting? So we have to describe. And next, step 4, describe persistent data sources and identify the classes required to manage them. So what type of data files you are using? So in the backend, what type of data you are using? What type of the database you are using? We have to know. Okay, so that is the step 4. And coming to the next, step 5, develop and elaborate behavioral representation of the classes or a component. So by using this component, what is its behavioral conditions? So we have to describe. And next, step 6, elaborate deployment diagram to provide additional implementation details. So deployment, what is the mean by deployment? Deployment is one of the part of the framework activities. So what we do in the deployment? In deployment means what is meant by deployment? In deployment, what we do? So whatever the software we developed in the developer's team, so the same software will be given to the user ends at the user environment, how that software is working. So that is a deployment. So for that deployment, we have to draw some deployment diagram and we have to provide whatever the additional implementations we require in the user's environment in order to work with that software. And next, step 7, refactor every component level design representation and always consider the alternatives. So whatever the, for example, if you are giving some values, it may be stored within it. So we have to refactor every time. So whatever the, for example, if you want to check some input, so by giving this input, what type of output you are getting. So after checking that, you have to refactor because in order to remove that input in the memory of this software. Okay, so like that we have to refactor and also we have to consider some alternatives at every time. So these are the different connecting of the component level design. And next, coming to the component level design for the web apps. Up to now we have seen the what is the software. In the software, what type of a component level design, how we have to conduct. And next we are going to the component level design for the web apps, for web applications. So what is the component level design? So a web app component is a well-defined cohesive function that manipulates content or provides computational or data processing for an end user. So who will use the web app? Ourselves. That means we are the end users. So what is a web app component? So we said that component is nothing but it is a module in the software. So what is a component in the web application? So it is a well-defined cohesive function that manipulates the content or provides some computational data processing. So what is a component? Is some processing. That means if you get a login, so login. So login means you are giving some hit to the button. So that button is going to the server side and it is checked in the database and you will get the home page like that. So that means it is carrying of some process. That is called as a component. So a cohesive package of content and functionality that provides the end user with the same required capability. So whatever the capability it has to require, so the same packages will be given by this web app component. Therefore, the component level design for web apps often incorporates the elements of content design and also the functional design. Okay, so in web apps, in web applications, the component is not dependent on the content of the design or as well as the functional design. It is independent of those two. And next, to achieve the capabilities, you will design and construct web app function components that are similar in form of to software components for conventional software. So in order to achieve the capabilities, in order to achieve the some more capabilities of the web applications, you have to design and construct the web app functional components. So functional components means placing the some of the buttons, whatever the buttons you placed, whatever the radio buttons you placed, whatever the check boxes, whatever the text boxes you are used, those are called as a components. Okay, web app functionality is delivered to a series of components. Yes or no? By giving the submit button, again it will go for the some other button. Okay, so like that. So it is a series of applications. So series of actions. And next, during achieving architectural design, web app content and the functionality are combined to create a functional architecture. So what is the architecture? Architecture is nothing but it is a blueprint of the software. Okay, so during the architectural design, whatever the architecture design you are doing, so in that, whatever the web content you are placing, whatever the functionality you are placing, okay, they are both combined to create a functional architecture. Okay, and next, a functional architecture is a representation of the functional domain of the web app. So whatever the functional architecture, so what is the functional architecture? It is a representation of the functioning of the web app. So what is the functional domain? So how it is getting the function. For example, in Amazon, how you are selecting the images, some products. After selecting the products, how is getting to the cart. So after getting into the cart, how you are going to proceed to buy. So that is a functional. Okay, those are all the functional components. And next, designing the traditional components. So what is the traditional components? So up to now we have seen the what is the web app component. Now we are going to do the how we have to design the traditional components in the web applications. Dijkstra is one of the scientists and other. So Dijkstra is he is more familiar in the network programming. Okay, so and other proposed some set of consistent logical constraints, logical constructs from which the program could be formed. So they construct the emphasis maintenance of the functional driven. So what domain? Functional domain. So what are the things? So he is suggested. So he proposes some of the use of a set of constraint logical components. So what is the constraint logical components? So let us see. The first one is the constraints are sequence, condition, and repetition. So whatever the conditions, so in traditional components, whatever the traditional components you are using, so those traditional components, so they have to construct for what they are using for. They are constructing for the sequence. Second one is the condition and repetition. So first we go the what is the sequence. Sequence means it is a implementation, processing steps that are concerned the specification of any algorithm. So for example, if you consider some algorithm, if you consider some, we can say some algorithm. So in that algorithm, without any conditions, if you want to move the transaction, some steps. So like this, continuously flowing the data without any loops, without any conditions, that is called as a sequence. Next one is the condition. So what is a condition? Like for loop. If you go for the for loop. So for loop, in for loop what you do, what you people give, in for loop you will give the some condition. So for example, in for loop, for, so I is equal to 0, I plus, so I less than or equal to 10, I plus plus. So this is a for loop, that means this is a one condition. The condition has to be satisfied by the component, then only it will go for the execute, or else it will not execute. So that is the condition. And next one is the repetition. So what is the repetition? Do while loop. So what is the do while loop? It will go for the do. Whatever the condition it is there, if it is satisfied, then it will go for the again. If the condition is satisfied, again it is looped. That is the repetition. So repeatedly it is going to continue the program until it is not satisfied. Okay, so that is the repetition. So sequence, condition and repetition. So sequence is the number of sequence steps that we follow in the algorithm. So condition, by having the some condition, it is getting checked. We use the some rhombus shapes. That is a condition. Next one is the repetition. So how much times it is going to repeat it. So looping. Okay, like do while loop or while loop, like that. And next one is, so these three constructs are fundamental to be structural programming and important component level design technique. So in order to design the component level, so these three constructs, what are those? Sequence, and next one is the condition, and next one is the repetition. These three plays an important role. Okay, and next coming to, so graphical design notation. So what is the graphical design notation? Why we are using the graphical design? So what is the why? What is the importance of the graphical design? So in order to say in the so more and more words, if I give the some diagrammatical way, so the diagrammatical, the picture will give the more explanation to the user than what I am speaking. Okay. So for example, if I said there is a loop, so in this loop like this it will flow. Without I am explaining any diagram, if I said like that, so you people can't able to imagine that. If I give the some diagrammatic representation regarding that, so then it will be very easy for you people to understand. The same thing, in order to understand easily by the user, in order to recognize the things very easily, so graphical notations plays an important role. So in that graphical notation, so first one is the flowcharts. So why we are using the flowchart? So what is the need of the flowchart in the software? So the flowchart will give the diagrammatical representation. So when we are giving the input like that, the output will be getting like this. So it has to undergo some series of actions in between the input and output. So whatever we have to try to say, that can be applied and that can be designed in the form of a flowchart. Okay, the sequence is represented as two processing issues connected by the line. So whatever the line. So for example, if there is a flowchart, so the flowchart is having the connected some line. Okay, that line what it says. So whatever the information is passing from one to the another. So that through the connected line. Okay, so that is a sequence. So here the sequence example we have given the if then else. And next one is the repetition. Okay, so what is the repetition? So repetition is also represented using the two slightly different forms. So condition means we have to give the some rhombus. Okay, for repetition we have to give the some loop. Loop means like this, rounded arrows. Okay, so the do while test a conditions. So what is a do while do? It test a condition. After the condition is satisfied, what it will go? It will undergo the some logic. After doing the logic, whether it is in the same time again we'll go for the logic checking. So again go for the condition. So again condition it is satisfied. Again it will go for the while loop. That means it is looping within itself until the condition is satisfied. So that is a repetition. And next one is a selection. So what is the selection? For selecting of some cases. What is the cases? So the cases are shown in the figure. Let us see. So okay, now we are going for the tabular design notation. So what is a tabular design notation? So few people are aware of the some truth tables. So this tabular design notation is a truth table. Okay. So what is this tabular is? This tabular we call as a decision table. That means here in the decision table, if you see, it has some values. Some true. TT means true. F means false. Okay. If it is tick mark means okay, it is fine. Like that. So this decision tables, what does it provides? This decision tables provides the notation that translates the actions and conditions into a tabular form. Whatever the translations we are doing, whatever the conditions we are applying, so that is we have to note it in the form of a tabular form. So that is this table. So okay, the table is difficult to misinterpret and may even be used as a machine readable input. So by using these decision tables, we can go for the machine readable inputs. Okay, so this decision table is organized as if following. So okay, this is called as a decision table. So these are the some conditions. So in that conditions, in what extreme? So this is a 1, 2, 3. So 1, 2, 3 is nothing but some extreme values. For example, you people are getting the some feedback, in feedback 1, 2, 3. So if it is a 5, very good. So it is a 4, good, like that. So like that is the conditions. Okay. So after conditions, there are some task before below that. So for what task, what it is. So for example, first one is the regular. So yes, regular customer. Yes, he is a regular customer. True, true. Like that. Okay. So this is a decision table. Notation of the decision table. And next coming to the. So the following steps are applied for the to develop a decision table. So what is the steps we have to follow in order to develop the decision table? So first one, list all actions what can be associated with a specific procedure. So first we have to list all the conditions. So whatever the conditions we have to go for. So we have to list out all those things. And secondly, list all conditions for decisions made during execution or the procedure. So during executions, whatever the conditions. So at the time, so if I give the output, if I got the output like this, if I give the input like int, so what type of output I am getting? If I give the input as some string, what output I am getting? Like that, we have to list out the some conditions. Okay, and next, thirdly, associate a specific set of conditions with specific actions. So what are the specific actions we have to consider? We have to eliminate the whatever it is impossible in order to get. We have to eliminate those. We have to apply the some combinational conditions like develop any permutations of conditions. So if you know the permutations combinations, so there is a probability of getting of a chance. So then we have to go for the permutations of the some combination of the inputs. And next, lastly, define rules by indicating what actions occur for a set of conditions. So if I use some set of conditions, what type of action I'm getting? So whether I'm getting the input output or not, or whether I'm getting any error, what type of error that. So we have to list out in the decision table. And next coming to program design language. So what is a program design language? So program design language we call as a PDL. Okay. So we in architecture way we have the some design ADL. Like that we have some PDL. Okay, so program design language. What is this program design language? This program design language, also called as structured English or pseudocode, incorporates the logical structure of a program languages. So whatever the program languages have the logical structure, that structure will not be included in that. So this is called as a program description language, design language. Okay, so it is of English type only. So narrative text, it has some English, so is embedded within a programming language like syntax. So syntax is nothing but having the semicolons, that is the syntax. Okay, other automated tools can be used to enhance the application of a PDL. So where this PDL will be used is in automated tools. So for testing purposes, this PDL language will be used. Okay, so a basic PDL syntax should be include the constructs for a component definition. So interface description. So what are the components? What are the interface? So we have to define in that PDL. So it should be noted that PDA can be extended to include keywords for multitasking and or concurrent processing. So whatever the multitasking we have used. So multitasking purposes also we have to define the sum of the keywords for the PDL. And next coming to component based development. Okay, what the component based software engineering, CBSE, we call as a CBSE, component based software engineering. So it is a process that emphasizes the design and construction of a computer-based systems using reusable software components. So by using the reusable software components, we are using the component-based software engineering. So what is the software engineering? So in order to develop some quantifiable and we can say like by using some quality process, so by developing some software product, we use a software engineering. It is one of the process. So component based. So in order to reuse the components, if you reuse the components, then it is called as a component based software engineering. Okay. So what is a domain engineering? So CBSE is a one engineering. What is a domain engineering? We said that we should have the knowledge about the domain. What is the infrastructure domain? What is some domain knowledge? What is the problems in the domain? So what is a domain engineering? So the intent of domain engineering is to identify, construct, catalog, and discriminate a set of software components that have applicability to the existing and future software in a particular application domain. So what is a domain? We are setting the domain. What is a domain? Domain is nothing but some particular language. If we say Java is a particular domain. C is a particular domain. C++ is a particular domain. Python, Ruby, Perl, like the different languages have different domains. Okay. So the main intent of the domain engineering is to identify what it has to identify. It has to identify the some catalog. It has to identify the how we have to construct by using the components. Okay. So the overall goal is to establish the mechanism that enables software engineering to share these components. Whatever the components you are using in the software, whatever the components you are using in the implementation of the software. So how we have to reuse those? How we can reuse those? So that is a domain engineering. And next, so domain engineering includes their major activities. What are the major activities are? First one is analysis, construction, and dissemination. So these are the major activities in the domain engineering. So first one is the analysis, second one is the construction, and third one is the dissemination. So the overall approach to domain analysis is often characterized within the context of the object-oriented. So whatever in domain engineering, it is mainly often to characterize the object-oriented language. Okay, so object-oriented software engineering. So there are some stages in some steps in that. So what are those steps is, first one, define the domain to be investigated. So what domain you are going to develop. So we have to first investigate. So whatever the software, so we have to develop. So in what domain we have to develop that, we have to investigate. Next one is categorize the items extracted from the domain. So what are the different categories? So we have to categorize the items. So in that domain, what are the things, what are the packages it have? So what are the different components it have? We have to categorize those. And next, collect a representative sample of application in the domain. So previously, if there is any application is developed by using this domain, so what are those applications? We have to collect. And next, fourthly, analyze each application in the sample and define analysis classes. So whatever the applications, previous class, sample applications we have, so we have to analyze that, and we have to take some of them, we have to define our analysis classes of our particular software. And next, lastly, develop a requirement model for the classes. And lastly, we have to develop a model for the classes. So these are the steps to follow the component based deployment, development. Next one is a component qualification. So what is the qualification in the component? Okay. So domain engineering provides the theory of reusable components. So we are saying in domain engineering, what the main domain engineering, the main intent is reusable of the components. So how we have to use? So okay, among the many factors considered during the component qualification. So we have to, what is the qualification of that component in order to reuse? So we have to know. The first one is application programming interface. So API, we call as the API. What is the application programming interface? So what is the application programming interface? Is nothing but it is a, if it is Java, so it has the application interface programming. If it is a C, it doesn't have any application programming interface. Okay, application programming interface is nothing but it is one of the package which going to have a number of classes to implement. So whether it is having the application programming interface or not, we have to check. And next, development and integration tools required by the components. So whatever the development tools we have, and what are the integration tools we have in order to develop of the software product. And next, runtime requirements. whatever the runtime requirements we have, like including the some resource usage. So what type of resources it is using, so at what time it is using, how much time it is taking to resource utilization. So we have to consider that. And next, service requirements. Okay, so what type of services requirements it is taken by operating systems. Okay, and next one is the security features. So what type of the security features it require in order to develop that component. And next, lastly, exception handling. So if there is any error, it is occurred, so within our limits or within the out of the boundary, so how we have to handle those, so we have to consider. So these are the component qualification. So what is a component adaptation? So that is a component qualification in the component based development. So now we are going for the component adaptation. So what is the component adaptation? So an adaptation technique called as a component wrapping. So wrapping, what is meant by wrapping? Wrapping means like chocolate wrapping. How chocolate is will be wrapped within the chocolate paper, like that. That is wrapping of the data. So when a software team has full access to the internal design and code for a component while has wrapping is applied. So I said that abstraction is nothing but a wrapping of data. That means whatever the data you wrapped, that means if you keep in a one place, that data should not be revealed to the user. Okay, so in the same way, how the component, so how the internal design, how the, see for example, we are using the mobile. So we don't know what is the internal design in that. We don't know what is the code it has written, what is the programming it has. We don't know, but we know how to use. But we don't know what is the structure of the program, what is the structure of the hardware in that, what is the structure of the some design it has performed, how many slots for memory, how many slots for SIM. We don't know the structure. Internal design we don't know. Okay, so that is a wrapping. So in that wrapping, so it has some steps. One is a white box, next one is a gray box, and next one is a black box. So these are the three different types of the wrapping. So let us go, what is that? So first one is the white blocks. White blocks wrapping. So what is the white blocks wrapping? So examines the internal processing details. So white box wrapping is nothing but knowing the internal details of the component and makes end code level modifications to remove any conflict. So in white box wrapping, so what they will do is, so it know the internal design, okay, internal processing details. They know the internal processing details. If they know the code also. So if there is any error occur in the while running the code, they can remove. So that is a white box wrapping. Next one is a gray box wrapping. So what is a gray box wrapping? So it is applied when it is applied when component library provides a component extension language. So whatever the components we are using, in that components if you give some extension, or we can use some application programming interface APIs that enables the conflicts to be removed or marked. So if you are combining of the two sources, so two programs, for example, in C language or CPP language, if you are writing the two classes, if you want to combine those two classes, you want to have some interaction between these two classes. Okay, while clubbing these two programs, you may get some errors. You will have some problems. So in order to remove those, this gray box wrapping will be used. Next one is the black box. So what is a black box wrapping? So it requires the instruction of pre and post processing of the components interfaces to remove or mark the conflicts. So black box. So black box wrapping is required when there is a introduction of the pre or post processing of the components. That means whatever the components, if you are reusable components, whatever the reusable components, if you are using the same component, if you are going to reuse the component what is defined in other classes, at that time if you are getting the any problem, so at that time we use the black box wrapping. So these are the different types of wrapping for the component adaptation. So in order to utilize the reuse of the component, so these type of wrappings we have to know. And next one is the component analysis and design for the reuse. So component composition. Next one is the component composition. So first we have seen the component adaptation. Next one is the component composition. So what is the component composition? So the component composition task assembles qualified, adapted and engineered components to populate the architecture established for an application. So for whatever an application you're using, so whatever the components your architecture, whatever the things you make some composition task, whatever the task you developed by using these components, that is a component composition. So to accomplish this, an infrastructure must be established to bind the components into an operational system. So in order to use the components, we have to build some operation. So in order to perform some operation, so we have to infrastructure the so to bind all the components. If you bind all the components, then we have to know what is the operation of the system. So the infrastructure provides a model for the coordination of the components. What does it mean by infrastructure? So here the infrastructure is a light board. So I'm getting the infrastructure of light board with lights and systems and intranet, everything. So with camera. So then only I'm going to deliver the lecture to you. So I'm going to record the video for you people. Like that, in order to develop the software, so in order to use the components, so we have to know what is the infrastructure model. So how we have to get the infrastructure model? That means this infrastructure model, what it is, the infrastructure provides a model for the coordination of the components. So it will give us a model. Okay, this model you have to use it for these web apps. So whatever the model you are using, so through that model we have to make some components to communicate with each other. So that is the coordination of the component, that is the infrastructure, and specific services that enable components to coordinate with one another and perform some common task. So that is the infrastructure. So that is the component composition. And next, coming to the analysis and design for reuse. So what is the analysis? What is the design for reuse? So up to now we are going for the only using. For now we are going for the reusing, already used one. So how to reuse? Okay, so Binder suggests a number of key issues that form a basis for the design for the reuse. So Binder is one of the Binder is one of the contributor. He has suggested some of the following keys. So in order to reuse of the design. Okay, so what is that? So first one is the standard data. So whatever the application domain, what application domain you are using. So what type of indication you are using, what type of global and data structures, what type of data structures you are using, what type of data you are using, whether it is a global data or whether it is a local data. Or example, whatever the file structures, what are the file structures that is comes under the whatever the databases you are used, okay, should be identified. We have to identify all those things. Then what we can to know what is the standard of the data. And next one is the standard interface protocols. So what type of protocols we have? So we have the 3 levels of the protocols, interface protocols. So should be established the nature of the intramodular interfaces. So in intermodule way different and intramodules are different. So here we have to know what is the intramodular interfaces. Okay, the design of the external technical. We can say how intra interfaces and external interface, how they have to interact with each other, how they are getting interacted. So what is for communication process, what are the things we are implemented in between them. So that we have to know. Okay, that is a protocols. And next one is a program templates. So what type of templates we have used. And next, an architectural style is classes. So an architectural style is chosen and can serve as a template for the architectural design for the new software. So firstly, whatever the design we have to follow, first we have to take the architecture. So whatever what are the program templates it has used, we can also reuse by making some more changes. By choosing some more set of changes, we can go for the new software of the different architecture styles. So classifying and retrieving of the components. How we have to classify, how we have to retrieve the components. So a reusable software component can be described in many ways. So, but an ideal description encompasses the 3D model, concept, content, and context. So, up to now we have seen the reusable of the component. Okay, so how we have to classify the components, how we have to retrieve the components. We can say, so there will be many components, so we have required only one component. So how we have to classify that and how we have to retrieve that. Okay, it is based upon the three models. One is content concept, next one is a context, and next one is a content. So basing upon these three, we can analyze the component, we can retrieve the component. So what is meant by concept? So the concept of a software component is a description of what the component does. So for example, capacitor. So capacitor is a one component. So what the capacitor will do? It will charge. Okay, like that we have to know. Next one is that is a concept. Next one is a content. So what is the content of your components? So the content of a component describes how the concept is realized. So how the whatever the concept we are saying in that, so how it is realized, how we can know. So that is a content. Okay. Next one is a context. So what is a context? So context places a reusable software component within its domain of applicability. So where that is by specifying the conceptual, operational, and implementational features. So what is the operation of that? So what type of operations it will do, that component do. So what is its infrastructure? So what is its implementation feature? By implementing this component, what is the changes we are getting? So what is the features we are getting? So that is the context. Okay, we have to see three: concept, content, and context. So concept is what by implementing this component, what it will do. Second one is the content. So content. So what is the content? So content is, it describes how the concept is realized. So whatever the concept we are saying, so how we can know. And next one is the content. So content is nothing but, so it has some operations. So whatever the operations it is doing. So whatever the implementations, features we are getting after implementing that. So that we have to know. Okay. So the content enables a software engineer to find appropriate component to meet the application requirements. So we have to use, okay, for example, if you want to use for example, if we are developing some hardware. Okay, in that hardware we have to place some resistors. So which will take the flow of the current, which will take the some resistor flow of the current. So in order to resist the flow of current, what we have to use? We have to use a resistor. So that means the content, we have to know the content. Okay, so that is a content. So context. Okay, and next coming to. So a reuse environment exhibits the following characteristics. So whatever the reusing of the components, so it exhibits some of the following characteristics. What are those? Let us see. The first one, a component database capable of storing software components and the classification information necessary to retrieve them. So whatever the things it is storing in the database, it has to be retrieved. Okay. Next, a library management system also it has to maintain. And next one is a software component retrieval system that enables a client application to retrieve components and services from the server. For example, you are doing some transactions. After doing the transactions, if you want to get the transaction slip, what you people do? Again, you will go for some net banking source. There you go for that and you will get that means whatever the transaction you done, the transaction slip will be stored in the server. So getting the server, from the server to client, it is transforming. There is also one type of component. Okay, CBSI. So component based software engineering tools that support the integration of reused components into a new design or implementation. So we have seen the CBSE. CBSE is nothing but a component based software engineering. So this CBSE is developed some tools. So by using these tools, whatever the components we have, so we can construct the components and we can also reuse the components whatever we used. Okay. So by this we completed the 4th unit.